How far would you go to land your dream job? Is music truly the universal language? We'll explore the answer to those questions and much more during this episode of the Career Journey podcast, No Wrong Choices. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Larry Samuel, soon to be joined by my co-hosts Larry Shea and Tushar Saxena. A quick ask before we kick off: if you enjoy what you're about to hear, please be sure to like and follow our show. This helps us grow and to keep bringing these great journey stories to life. Now let's get started. This episode features a conversation with the singer, guitarist, and harmonica player Greg Luttrell, who has taken a very unique path towards achieving his dreams of being a professional musician. Larry Shea is somebody who's been friends with Greg for years and has seen this journey come together. You were certainly the right person to set this up for us.
Yeah, this was a great conversation that we had with Greg about his career journey and how he got to where he is today, which is, in reality, a world stage performer. You know, some people are just built for certain things. Greg is he's built to be an entertainer. And, you know, through hell or high water, this is what he was going to do with his life. And I couldn't be more proud. And I love anytime I get to see this guy perform, I'm on cloud nine. So super fun conversation. And we're going to hear his journey and how he got there. So really excited to share it with everybody.
First of all, anytime you call yourself a professional harmonica player, it is an unconventional journey to success. And that is really true in the case of Greg here. I mean, many of us want to pursue our career paths and have a very linear way to get there. This is not the case with this guy. There is a lot going on. You know, he's put the work in. But the one thing you can say about his path to success, maybe he didn't find it here in the States, but he found it more on a global stage. And that works for him. Might not work for everybody. It works for him. It's unconventional, and it's really, really fun.
Yeah, this really falls into the category of, you know, find what you love and figure out a way to get paid for it, right? So he was not going to be denied. He was born to be an entertainer, and I hope everybody gets to check him out based on this.
Whether you have to go to China or not. Here is Greg Luttrell to tell his own story. Now joining No Wrong Choices is the singer, guitarist, and harmonica player Greg Luttrell. Greg has the unique distinction of being a blues, soul, and classic rock performer who, of all places, is based in Beijing. I've never really thought about that before. Greg, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Greg, this is my buddy, so I'm going to get us going here.
What's going on,
we
Larry?
always say full disclosure.
This is your full
My
disclosure.
guy. My guy.
You're going to take the rap for this one, huh, Larry?
I'm going to take the rap for this one, Greg.
Okay.
No, but I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
too.
I mean, you know, I even said, can we do this while you're in China? Like, how could we do this? Lucky enough to get a window here. Great to talk to you. I've always been impressed with what you've done professionally. Playing all over the world, really. I mean, let's just be frank about it. So tell everybody, just start off, like, who's Greg Luttrell? What do you do professionally? And tell us what you're all about today.
Wow, who's Greg Luttrell? Well, you know, I've been singing and playing, you know, R&B and rock and roll and blues for a long, long time, and came up in Detroit, and then moved over to Boston, Massachusetts, and was lucky enough to somehow find my way to Lowell, Massachusetts, to go to college with the great Larry Shea. And
Don't say that.
Another music degree.
It just inflates his head. It's just
you guys know him too well for me to still call him the great, huh?
Greg, every once in a while I got to pull out my music performance degree just to show them. I actually did get this.
That he has some sort of credibility.
That's right.
Have they put it up to the flashlight and everything like that?
Very good.
Don't tempt me. Pull out the lighter with it, too.
Let me see. Let me keep it going, I guess. And then, went to college with Larry and been playing in bands, and just lucky enough to get the chance to go over to China in 2009. A lot of adventures before then with an original band and just playing rock and roll any place where they'd let us set up for a long time, of course, when we were young. And actually, I kind of been teaching as long as at the same time in a few guitar stores and everything like that. Starting out in Lowell, same time as I was going to school with Larry, started out at the Music Mall and Tewksbury Music Center, teaching as a private teacher. So I've kind of been teaching undercover the whole time. And now, ends up, long story longer, that I'm over in China, and I'm playing with bands quite a bit, but I'm also teaching in a international music or international school, foreign school. But I'm the music teacher, which is a great time.
All right, so obviously, Detroit native means that music's in your blood, and I got to know. So then, is that what it was always about when you were a kid?
Yeah,
That Motown feel, that Motown vibe. I wanted to grow up and be a musician.
there was a lot of rock and roll going on too, and I dug both sides of it. You know, the Motown stuff was happening absolutely, but also I was into the Bob Seger stuff and MC5, whatever. You know, some of the other Detroit music that was going on. Detroit's always been a really important U.S. city, I think, for music,
Yeah.
and continues to be today. Although today it's like more with the DJ. You know, it's not really my particular vibe, but all the guys I know that are really into the big EDM scene are telling me. I say I'm from Detroit. Oh, you know, do you know? It's very influential cats still to this day, but more on the DJ side. But of course, with analog music, Detroit's always been an important city in the USA. So hope I'm doing it a little bit of justice to the music that I'm playing and the shows that I do.
Well, I've seen enough clips that I can say you are. At least I enjoy it.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
When did you start playing?
I started to play when I was maybe 7 or 8. My dad bought me a guitar, but I didn't really take to it. I was like, my lessons were on Saturday mornings, and that was when the cartoons were on. And I was like, I don't think this is going to work out.
You and me both.
So I picked it back up when I was about 12. But yeah, I could have started about 4 years earlier, but I was, couldn't get in the way of Bugs Bunny.
You know, I describe you as a natural performer, just because that's all I've ever known you to be. But I know it's in your blood, too, So I want you to talk a little bit about your grandfather in Detroit and how he influenced your music, and your dad, just the entertainment that he provided in the Massachusetts area, because he was an entertainer as well, was he not?
In a way, he was like a news guy. He was a field reporter, yep. And he was absolutely an entertainer in the way that he was on TV. He was a personality, but he was, more of a news guy. And he had a talk show as well when we were in Detroit. Actually, he had one in Boston as well. But yeah, my grandfather had a long history of. He was a DJ from WJLB in Detroit for many, many years. And he was one of the first guys to kind of incorporate rap into his vibe. He used to always rhyme his words. Ernie Durham was his name, Frantic Ernie D. And he was like the afternoon drive guy. He was really big in Detroit, really, really big. And he's still, he's in the Detroit Radio Hall of Fame and all this stuff. And but he was very influential. And then he happened to own a club called, we'd be part owner of if you've seen the movie with the Motown guys standing in the shadows, they're standing on the grounds of where the 100 grand was. He was one of the guys that was involved with that. So he was very influential to me in the way that I kind of knew what he was doing. And he used to work for Casablanca Records back when Kiss and Parliament were the two biggest bands. So after the club would close, he would come by the house in Detroit and he would put record albums, record albums in between the front door and the screen door. So when in the morning I would run out to play, and boom, here comes Kiss Records, Funkadelic Records, Parliament Records. So from that, and then I would go march right back inside. I'd never even go outside. My mother would be like, "Get outside." I go play outside. I'm listening to Kiss and Funkadelic, because they were the two big bands on that label.
So what would you say were your influences then growing up in terms of your music influences? Would you say you grew up more of a rock guy, you grew up more of a Motown guy, an R&B guy?
I was like a rock and roll guy, but I've always liked all kinds of music, Once I was like 14 and I started getting into Deep Purple, and then I had read that Richie Blackmore, obviously, and you could hear by his solos and his ideas that he's drew a lot from classical music. So, but when I saw him, read him at that time, his interview, and they said how influenced by classical. So I wanted to go listen to all the classical music that he listened to. And so I've always listened to a lot of kinds of music. But, for my early years of rock and roll guitars, 15 to 18, I was definitely a metal guy, hard rock guy, with some blues. I like blues, Hendrix, Sabbath.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
The classics.
Rainbow, Michael Schenker.
Yes.
So how did you learn? I mean, you started young, but what is that process? You know, who gave you your first guitar, and what happened after that, and how do you go about getting good and getting this good?
You know what? That's actually kind of a cool story. I've had many, many wonderful teachers over the years, many really cool teachers, insightful and patient and good connections, but I'll tell you the funny story about my very first guitar teacher. Or my second guitar teacher, when I restarted guitar at the age of like 12, right? So this lady, she's really cool, like hippie. She was a hippie lady, really curly, frizzy hair. It was silver. She's an older lady, and she was teaching like a group guitar class. So I think it was cheap because my parents were like, "Well, you didn't do it the first time, so we're not going to pay a lot of money the second time around." So they put me in a group class, and this lady, she comes in, she's got these big glasses on, this big hat, and she's got a vest on, and she's got like, remember people used to wear pins, remember the pins with their band on them, right? So she's got a Rush pin and Led Zeppelin and all these bands, but she's like your grandmother for sure, what I mean? So she comes in and she plays like a couple of like, I'm 12, she plays a couple pretty impressive licks. It's like, ooh, oh, that was cool. And so the first thing she taught us was Fly By Night by Rush. And
wow.
So that's how we started it out. And I was like, I think, and
God.
she was just had such great energy. You know what I mean? I was like, this is cool, man. So she got me back on track.
And once she got you on track, because you're living the dream, man. You're a musician performing for a living. Was that the dream when you were that age?
At that time, I think I still wanted to be a professional baseball player too, but I hadn't figured out that I wasn't good enough yet.
Right. Like the rest of us.
So that was part of the dream, But no, I always had a special thing for music, ever since I was a very young kid. So I always had a very special feeling, like a lot of people, for music. So and I, I guess I was a lot of a ham, so I wanted to perform.
So then in school, so that was the goal at that point. How were you a good student, or was everything then just poured into your music, whether it be band classes and theory classes?
I was like kind of lazy.
Did not care about the rest of it.
I was kind of lazy. Like I did well in the classes that were easy for me, like English and stuff, and then I kind of struggled in science. But I was like, most of it came a little bit easy to me. So I can't say I was a good student, but I got good enough grades usually not to get in trouble. Too much trouble.
Is high school when the first band came along?
Actually, I had a band in the 7th grade, and I wrote an original song, and our choir teacher, Mr. Jim Smella, who's a really wonderful man, he wrote down all the, we could barely play it at all when I was 12, but I had written a little song. He wrote out all the parts. We learned them. We performed it at an assembly in the 7th grade, and it was like a big deal at the time, whatever. But it, kind of gave me some encouragement, But he was a big, big, huge help. He went way out of his way to help us, and it was really big.
Were your parents supportive? Were they always like, hey, whatever you want, Greg, as far as the lessons and stuff?
Yeah, they always paid for the lessons and stuff like that. I know my dad wasn't real excited about rock and roll as a choice, for sure, until I got a little bit of more successful.
Did he know you wanted to do it for a living?
He did, and he wasn't psyched about it. But once he realized I wasn't going to give up.
To do it for a living. Did you know you wanted to do it for a living at that point?
I was trying to see if it was possible. You know what I mean? Because for a long time I had little temp jobs and side jobs that I was doing at the same time. But of course, I wanted to make all my money doing music. And just doing little different combinations of shows and to try to make it happen.
No, when did you move to Massachusetts? When did that happen?
I moved to Massachusetts in just after my junior year of high school.
Okay.
And so I did senior year here. I'm not even over there. Senior year in Boston, and then went to a little bit of college.
Was that tough? Was that tough making a move from Detroit to Massachusetts?
It was a little bit weird, but it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was that tough because I met some people right away. I still got a lot of good friends from my Wellesley days, which was only 1 year of school. A lot of good friends that I still hang out with. So I got to say, I kind of fell into it pretty easy. I like people, you know what I mean? So I feel like
you're a people person.
I'm a people person. I would say so.
So when you got out there, did you get into a band when you got into Massachusetts? Like, I'm curious about the high school performing Greg Luttrell.
We did have a band, but we didn't really I wasn't really like slamming with a band. I was kind of the brakes got put on that. We were playing guitar, like we were just playing guitar down in the basement. You know what I mean? Doing that at the high school hang, cruising around. Like we were developing our taste in rock and roll, but we weren't gigging. And like, I had a couple bands actually though, senior year. One of them we were doing some Rush and some Maiden and some Priest. Yeah, actually, come to think of it, we had a few bands going on, but it wasn't voracious. It wasn't voracious. You know, we played at the high school, and that's why I say we didn't really have a band. We jammed, and there were cool jams in there. I was playing with good guys. Glenn Hellriegel on bass, Rob McEachern on drums, Rich Smith. Yeah, I was playing with some good guys for sure, but we weren't doing gigs. And in the springtime, we did one gig, and that was a different band at the auditorium at the high school, but it wasn't like a big deal.
Yeah.
No.
So was college really the place where when you met Larry Shea, obviously, and
Everything
career
changed.
seems to-
Everything
it
changed.
seemed to take off right from there? That's where it all happened.
That's where the
Meet
magic
Larry
kicks
Shea,
in right
your
there.
whole life changes.
I don't know where I'd be without Larry Shea.
I'm going. Now your whole life changes so much. You say, "I have
You
to get the
know.
hell out of America."
No,
Why do I put up with
I
this?
do. I do. I would not want to have not known Larry Shea, though. I'll tell you that he's my deep brother. No doubt about that. We've had so many good times, buddy.
Let's talk about Lowell, though. Lowell's a
boy.
good jumping off point.
I
Lowell's
guess
a good
jumping off the bridge, right?
We could tell about the jumping off the bridge story. I think the statute of limitations on that one might have run out. So
I
think we're
hope
okay
so.
on that
I
one.
hope so.
But Greg, no, to be fair, to be honest, you were a couple years ahead of me.
Yep.
I think two years ahead of me. So, you were at Lowell causing a lot of damage before I even got there. Like, let's be real about what it is. I was telling these guys about dime slotting mattresses and putting fish in between mattresses and box springs and the shenanigans that you used to be up to. But do you remember jumping in the canal?
I
in
absolutely
college?
remember that one. Yeah, that was a crazy one.
So I don't know if you want to tell the whole story, but I can set it up for
You can set it up.
because we have a mutual friend, Ray, Big Tough Ray Clough,
Rough
came
tough
to town
class.
a bunch of months ago, and I had completely forgotten the story. I said, Ray, what do you remember about college? I don't know if you guys are like this too, but college, you forget so much.
There's a
And he's
reason.
like, for good reason. He's like, I remember you had like a $20 bill, and we bought a case of Schlitz, but we had to jump into the canal if we were going to get it. So in Lowell, Massachusetts, they called it the Venice of America because there were all these canals that ran through the downtown. And so these guys, you and who else? 4 other guys?
Oh man, I hate to name it.
Get down to their skivvies,
Yeah, there's 4.
go up
There's
onto the
4 of us.
bridge, their tighty whities,
Yeah.
and jump in, and someone driving by thought they were committing suicide. So they called the
Oh,
cops.
jeez.
They did. It's true.
And they got the spotlights
Oh,
out,
yeah.
looking at the canal,
Yeah.
trying to dredge, looking for the delinquents who just jumped in. Anyway, so yeah. there you
That
go.
was exactly the story. But we wanted that beer. We were thirsty.
Did you get the
We
beer?
were thirsty.
Did you get it?
We got the beer.
All
We got
right.
the beer. Absolutely.
The ones who weren't detained got the Schlitz. Let's put it that way. Okay, I'm joking. But Lowell, I tell these guys
It's a
all
good
the time.
test for treading water. Though.
It is
really
a good
was.
test. Yeah, it was hours of treading water while I
It
was
was
just
a lot.
shaking my head. Lowell was a tough music school, though. It had high standards. It's a music performance degree,
Yeah.
and then I know you were music business. I was sound recording technology.
That's right.
But talk about Lowell and what you learned there, and what you were able to learn professionally to take on to the next level.
I'm so thankful for my time at Lowell. I felt like I was a really good music school at the time that we went there. I haven't been keeping up on how they're doing now, but I really felt like not only was the school really good, but like, we are all still there's so many of us still in touch and still working together and making money and making, advancing our careers together in different kinds of ways. But, I still, I just played with, Dan Abreu and Mick Mersha a couple of weeks ago. Those are guys that we went to college
Jazz
with,
Lab
you know
with
what I
them.
mean? I
Sure.
almost played with Yahuba, yeah. And so to be still in contact with these guys. We don't have an official fraternity or anything like that, but we have a definite brotherhood. You know what I mean? And all those things that we all came up together from wherever we were all at musically and developmentally, you know what I mean, to where we are all now. And it's great to see everybody doing so well. You know what I mean? Everybody we know, all of those guys are just guys before us and the guys a few years after us that are on our radar. Everybody's doing great. And so I feel like it's a good testament to what a strong school that was. And the kids that went there, we were cool kids, man.
Yeah.
You know, we were there at a good time.
We've actually had another guitar player, a friend of mine from a few years ago, and he talked about the notion of the 10,000 hours of practice is necessary to really become like, you know, to get proficient. Did you have your 10,000 hours? When was your 10,000 hours?
I'm not sure what I've probably put in 10,000 hours. I think the original concept of that is for not proficiency, but more mastery, really, which is, I mean, I'm not sure how many hours it takes anybody to do it. Some people are quicker than other people, and some people are on a slow burn. I wouldn't consider myself a master of the guitar. If I've put in 10,000 hours, it's probably just because I'm old.
Like you hit 10,000 like last week.
No, but I mean, it takes a lot of dedication, especially if you really want to become someone who's a master. I think every day the real journey for being a musician is that we all want to put our thoughts through this instrument or through our voice, and to be able to connect with it as quickly and as immediately and as emotionally as possible is the goal, right? So I don't know how many hours it takes. I'm still definitely working on it.
Well, talk to us about the moment where you were taking it that seriously. And you're at Lowell and you're starting to play out. You're starting to really focus on this as if it's going to be your career. Talk about how that all came together and the steps you took to really put yourself out there in that way.
Well, you know, I think in my junior year, because my first couple of years, man, we were having a lot of fun. We really were, you know. But then I realized, you know, hey, man, at some point I got to get out of here. And actually, I had a couple of friends of mine that were a little bit older than me that were really playing well. You know, we Dean Seropoulos, remember Dean? You know, just absolutely destroying the classical guitar. And we were hanging out a lot at that time with Dean, and he was older than us, you know. So I got a lot of inspiration from how hard he worked, because we went there for his senior recital and watched him absolutely just tear it up in the Lowell Music Hall for his senior recital. So a lot of the guys that I was around, and people that I was around, were very influential at that time, because a lot of other people were taking it very seriously too. You know, guys like Kareem and John Doyle that really put in the hours big time, you know what I mean? So those guys that were friends of mine and obviously classmates, those guys I think influenced us to like kind of get our act together and really try to finish strong, you know.
Yeah.
Which I was able to do.
And I would say also, and you know, I want you to expound on this. Music was such a part of our daily lives. I mean, you not only had to shred for your lessons, they made you perform. You were always doing something with the music performance school, but also instrumentally. You know, Greg, you lived in an apartment where you had a basement set up, right, with the drums.
Yep, I had the jam room hookups. Ready to go all the time.
You were the person that kind of took me in and taught me how to play with 20 different players in the course of a night. You know what I mean? We would just jump in.
Yeah.
Someone would grab the drumstick, someone would grab the bass, the guitar, whatever, and we would rotate in and out.
Yeah.
So we'd be partying the whole time.
Right.
But music was just such a part of our daily existence. You taught me how to shred. You know, that 10,000 hours, that was part of it for me. And also, you were my first band, because you got the house band at Mr. Tips.
At Mr. Tips and Bill Ricca.
And we called the band Lazy Galoot after Yosemite Sam.
That's right. Yep.
And we would go and we got paid in beer, which was a big mistake for Mr. Tips.
It really was. It really was.
And they realized after a few weeks, like,
we got to change the deal, man.
We got to change the deal.
You guys were a step ahead of the Blues Brothers, right?
We were like, you know.
That's exactly. But I want, all joking aside, I want you to talk about like how shredding was a part of our daily life, and that's kind of where you are, your chops are getting honed at that point.
Well, that's the beautiful
and you're
thing.
learning how to perform.
True. And yeah, and everybody's learning together too. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about music school. I suppose it could be any kind of school that's specified, but just whenever I wasn't too busy, it would be either you or Ray, like totally just like, oh, this SRT thing is killing me, and then kind of talking to you about what you were going through and your major. And I know that ours wasn't as technically demanding as yours, but we were all still just so submerged and immersed in music all the time. And and we used to duct tape ourselves into the room and be watching the videos of all the guitar guys.
Yeah, yeah, had to.
But yeah, we were just, that was the positive thing about music school, is we were just so everything was about music,
Yeah, we were engrossed in it.
So when did you really start to push it, to get into those top-notch bands?
Yeah.
There was a point where you started to say, okay, I'm good enough, I can do this, I'm going to these auditions. Like, how did you get yourself there, and what was that moment?
Man, I don't think there's ever a day where you're like, I'm the guy. Things just fall into place, and then you just try to do a good job and keep it going. You know what I mean? Like any of these entertainment jobs, you know what I mean? Can be flighty, and it can be dicey, and it can be, a different manager comes in, next thing you know, you're out, whatever, you know what I mean? Really. So, but I don't know if there's ever a point where you're like, I'm ready. I think, just you feel lucky to play with certain guys and get certain calls, you know what I mean? And you feel fortunate to, like, okay. And then you feel confident when it goes well, and then you just try to keep on being positive.
So Lowell's finishing up. One of the things I loved that they did was internship programs. You were in music business. We already talked about before. So you're studying music business. Talk about the internship you got from there and what it taught you.
Yeah, man. I, through another mutual friend and another Lowell graduate, Mr. Rich Vitalo, he was interning at WBCN, which was one of the big radio stations in the USA, not just, it was the biggest around Boston. And at that time, it was always ranked one of the best stations in the whole state or whole country. So Rich got me the opportunity to intern there. So I spent spent that semester of senior year with Carter Allen and Steve Strick and other BCN guys. I learned so much about radio. For me, that was the end of the era of radio, because just as I was starting to leave there, was when the Howard Stern era was coming in, which obviously changed radio completely. You know what I mean? So I feel like I was like on the very last edge of the old school radio before things changed pretty drastically, So I really, really, really enjoyed my time at that station. And I feel so super lucky for all the experiences I had there. I got to see some great bands. I got to learn about some of the inner workings of the radio industry at that time. Although now I got to say it's probably so different now. This is when people were promoting records in a totally different way than music is experienced today. So, but for me, as a life experience and for what it was, and like just to get my hustle on and stuff like that for my own band at that time and stuff, it taught me a lot, and I made a lot of great relationships from that era.
You were driving the van, right? For a while.
I was driving the van. Yeah.
I remember the BCN van. I remember a magical day. I got a phone call from Greg Luttrell. Said, "Clear your afternoon. You're coming with me." And you brought me down to Boston, and I met my rock and roll idols, Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley and Kiss, and got to shake their hand and have conversations with them, and it was magical. But I loved that Lowell did that, right? They made you do an internship. It was part of your curriculum.
Yeah.
And we tell people on this show all the time, if you can get an internship, if you could dedicate your time, that door could crack open for you, and that's an opportunity. Now, it didn't happen in your case.
Well, I wasn't really a radio guy. I did my internship, and then I wound up working there for a year and a half. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I was employed there for a long time. So I wasn't really a radio guy. I was trying to push my band, but I was so thankful just to be around that vibe. And like, of course, somehow in the back of my mind, without being like sleazy about it, I was like, how do I get my radio on? How do I get my music on the station?
Right.
But, but you want to be near the fire,
You want to be near the fire, and it turned into something for you then, obviously. So, but how do you graduate Lowell and then just go out professionally? Were you ever like, shit, I'm gonna have to be a plumber for a minute?
Oh, man.
Something
I was doing landscaping. You know, I was working. I was working the day. I did landscaping for years, and then I was a painter for a little while, and then I put on a tie and I did some temp jobs, and then I would be doing the temp job, but Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'm in the bar. And then, other nights rehearsing. And then finally I got to that pivotal point where it's like, okay, I think I can let it go and just try to jump in the water.
All right. So when was that I can let it go point and say, okay, now I'm a professional player?
25 years old when I stopped.
25.
How old?
Day job, 24, 25.
Okay.
24, 25.
And what were the circumstances around that? Describe that moment.
It wasn't really a moment. It was just like I was doing temp jobs, so I just stopped pursuing them, and just went for more like, okay, I'll play this on a Tuesday night. I'll play on a blah 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 at night. You know.
So you were gigging with bands, and you were just
gigging with bands and doing solo acoustic gigs. Once I had moved into Boston from Lowell, I had a couple buddies that, you know, Boston's a super rich music scene. There's so many pubs and clubs, and I know a lot of guys. Very talented, but they make their full living doing music, and they're not famous. They're just local guys. They're not looking to jump on planes and everything like that. They just do it all around Boston, but they're doing great, and they're killing musicians, so they get a lot of gigs, and there's just a lot of music opportunities in Boston.
So if that's the case, then like, when was that point where you said to yourself, okay, now I am going to make that move to become a professional? Like I'm going to now forget the day job, forget the tie. I am now moving to say to myself, because there must have been that moment where you just said, okay, I'm seeing how much I'm making landscaping. I'm seeing how much I'm making in an office, and I'm seeing how much I have to commit now. I have to figure out at some point whether I'm committing.
Yeah, I don't know if I really at that moment, man. I just kind of that I can remember. I feel like I just stopped looking for temp jobs and started trying to, you know, I'm living in Boston. I've got a lot of buddies that are just great players, and a lot of gigs are coming my way. And I want to be able to say yes. Yeah. So I just stopped, you know, really contacting the temp agency about day jobs. I never really quit.
So you're 25. The tie has been put in a drawer. Describe the next 5 years to us. Like, what happens in that next window that propels you to where you are today?
Man, just playing show after show after show. You know, so many people. Not that I'm I'm not a star or anything like that. I just was playing bands with people that I know and taking calls from anybody that would call. So I had it in my heart that this was what I wanted to do, and playing music was what I wanted to do. So,
yeah, you weren't going to be denied. I think one of your strengths too is your networking. Right? We already established you're a people person. But networking, you know, like gigs were never shy, man. You were always taking a gig. And like you said, you could do a solo thing or you could do an ensemble thing. You could jump in and do a couple tunes and book. Like you had a lot of versatility, I believe, when it came to performing that allowed you to be a professional musician full time. Is that accurate?
Oh, thanks, man. I mean, you know, I hope so. You know what I mean? Like I kept getting the calls. My book was busy, man. So, you know what I mean? I used to work so much in Boston. I'm so thankful as well. I don't think I ever took it too much for granted. You know what I mean? I got to play with some great people on some great shows and great records, I think, you know?
Yeah. So how does the China thing come about? Let's start to cover that piece.
Okay. I had been playing with a band called Mother's Favorite Child, and they have absolutely great saxophone player Leon Silver, very cool guy. He had been over in China for the Olympics in 2008, and when he came back, you know, he was still in China, and he hit me up. Hey, Greg, how you doing? Blah blah blah. I think we got a gig for you over in China, and I was like, come on. Get out of here.
That seems like an odd gig.
Yeah. You know, I did know he was over there because we had been a little bit in touch. And then he said, I'm going to put you in touch with this lady from Australia. She's booking this blues club in Shanghai. They're looking for a blues singer. So I recommended you. So he's the one, I got to give all the credit for Leon for originally bringing me to the House of Blues and Jazz in Shanghai, which is a very magical place, man. So we did like.
And this is 2009.
This is 2009, yeah.
Okay.
That was
Great.
the first time.
So, man, so what is the rules here? You sign up for a certain period of time? Is that how
the first one was 3.5 months that we did. And eventually, as we got further along and they liked us more, our longest contract was 6 months. But originally, they would do 4 bands for like 3.5 months.
And you come back to the States?
And then you come right back to the States, yep. So the first 3 or 4 times I went over there, I never knew if I would come back again, but I was really enjoying it. I'd say by the 3rd or 4th time I was over there, I was like, yeah, I need to spend more time here.
And what are you doing while you're there? Are you the house band? Are you playing every day?
We're the house band. We play 6 nights a week, and we host a jam. We would, at that time, I mean, they have a different format now, but at that time, they would bring over all foreigners. But there was the only blues club in town that had all foreign musicians, and they would really bring over the best people they could find from America and Germany, Europe, all over the place. So they really liked our band, and we really liked that club. We just said we're a good mix right from the start. From the first time contract we did over there, it was like magic for us. Amazing city at that time too. 2009 in Shanghai, the place was on fire. Economically, so good. Everybody had money. Tons of foreigners around spending money all over the place, and we were the house band at like the premier blues club. It was crazy.
So I guess that's a good way to put it. So what was the biggest difference between playing at clubs in America and playing at clubs overseas in China?
The biggest difference is that, everybody in the room spoke a different language. You'd have people from Europe, you'd have people from Africa, you'd have a few Chinese people. So the crowds were so international and diverse, and as reflective of Shanghai. Shanghai at that time was super, super diverse city within the expat community.
Yeah,
sure.
Did they all know the music? Meaning music is the universal language. Were they all connecting with what you were doing?
They were connecting as music. They weren't like, that's Howlin' Wolf, that's Buddy Guy. Yeah. I mean, now some people, you'd have some people that were in the blues, and they'd be like, I can't believe we found this place. And some other people just, I think that they connected. We had a strong band at that time. So I think they were connected with the energy we were putting out and our love for the music. I think, the music brings people of any languages to a brand new, beautiful place. That's one of my best memories of it. And one of the reasons why I stay is because sometimes you just go to these places when you're in this foreign land and you got all these people, and music is really creating something special for a group of people that are gathered together. So that still continues to be a driving force for me, is that moment when everybody's just really in it together.
Yeah.
Then the room is moving.
And the room is moving.
Talk about the culture shock. Was it were you like the first tour, for instance, communication, food, money, all the things that we just take for granted in our day-to-day life. Now you've got to go over there and kind of figure that piece out. And I would have a hard time. I would struggle with it. I mean, you've been there 15 years now. I'm sure it's different now, but in the beginning, was it I don't know. I think I got to go home. I don't know about this.
No, I mean, for me, it wasn't. For the guys in our band, I have known some people to come over, and I've helped a couple guys to come over that didn't love it. And I felt bad because I talked it up and blah, blah, blah. But it's not for everybody. It's very, very different. And it's not, the language is very different. It's not like going to Europe or going to, a place where it's a little bit different, but you can kind of hang in there. But no, and the culture is very different. But for me, I was hit the ground running. I was like, this place is amazing. And when I look back too, of course, this is before we had our cell phones and we had our now I have the, if I need to, I have Google Translate on my phone, right? We never had that before. We barely even had cell phones. I think I had a Motorola Razor and a pocket snap phone, you know what I mean?
I love that Motorola Razor.
Camera Razor, right?
I keep telling you to get a new phone too, Sharp. It's about time.
I love that phone.
I had a little Nikon camera, you had a phone and a camera. Also the big difference is that they had a lot of systems set up for you to succeed in Shanghai if you didn't speak Chinese. It was such an international city that it was it just seemed like in the early days you could always find somebody in the back of the shop that could come out and dust off enough English to like get you through ordering your dumplings or whatever you were trying to get, you know. When I got to Beijing, there was a big different story. It's this capital, so not nearly as many people, and they did not have. In fact, in Shanghai, they had the thing called Shanghai Call. You call this number, and they ask you what's your language, and you push a button, and then the person comes on in that language, and you tell them where they want to go. They look it up on the internet. They say, hand the phone to the cab driver. They hand the phone to the driver, and then they give you the phone back, and boom, you're on your way.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
So I moved to Beijing, and I'm like, hey, what's the number for Beijing Call? They're like, Chief, there's no Beijing Call. Good luck.
All right, so let me delve in a little bit deeper on that. So you said you had obviously spoken to others, trying to convince them to come to China. Some of them who came over did not enjoy the experience. What was the main thing they didn't like? Was it homesickness? Was it simply trying to get past the culture and the language barrier?
Yeah, I think for some people, you know, it was the language barrier and the culture. It just didn't appeal to them as much as I had maybe talked it up to me, but I was really enjoying it. So, I mean, and I would never invite anybody over who I thought might not enjoy it.
Would you say that you're just more naturally independent in that sense?
I don't know. I think some people, maybe are more easily acclimated. Like I'm down to go wherever, you know what I mean? As long as the place is peaceful and you know what I mean? I want to be there if they want me there. You know, I want to check out as many countries as I can. So when I happened to go to this one, I felt very lucky for the opportunity. And then for me, it was very easy to love. It was like magic from the start for me. At that time, the city, I mean, Shanghai is this incredibly vibrant city. You know what I mean? It's like New Orleans on crack, you know?
Wow.
Especially at that time, it's really just all night long, whatever you want to do. As long as you're being cool, no one's going to bother you. And you don't have to worry about your safety at this time. It's still today now, but at that time, like you really don't. It was just really, and you got all these international people that are here for a few months. So like everybody's got an exciting story why they're there, and they're only there for a small amount of time. So they're looking to have an amazing time while they're there. Or then you've got the people that have been there forever, then they want to show you the ropes. You know, let me show you this secret bar over this part of town over here. All right, let's go. You know, so it was just such an intense experience from the start for me.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, it's not for everybody. Like I said, a couple of buddies that are very good friends of mine that, you know, I was leaving a gig and it's like, I can give you guys this gig. And they just, a couple of guys didn't take to it.
Now, I'm curious about the broader journey. And, you know, some of these things that I'm about to ask about may have happened in Shanghai. They could have happened anywhere. What are some of your greatest memories of being on stage and possibly being joined by somebody who, you know, you looked up to or who was a hero? Tell us some of those really special moments, if you can, that really stand out as a performer.
Wow, I've felt lucky to play with such great musicians for a lot of the times in my life. But yeah, I mean, gosh, one time we got to perform down in St. Bart's. We were with Jimmy Buffett on his birthday.
Oh, cool.
Nice.
Yeah, which was right near Christmas. I want to say it was Christmas. So yeah, we were on a gig down there and we jammed with him, which was a big honor and a big, like, he's such an easygoing, cool guy, you know. I mean, jammed with a lot of people who were, I guess, famous, but a lot of my friends that I feel like should be famous. Some of my jams with them, I feel, have been, you know, even more breathtaking than playing with somebody who's
Well, I think Buffett is a pretty good top of the list, if that's.
Like I said, you know, couple times just looking out at the place in Shanghai and just seeing people from every single country, just absolutely, or not every single country, but many, many different countries in the bar together, 100% peaceful, everybody going for it, toasting each other, trying to get to this very cool, musically spiritual place, you know, with a little alcohol, but all love. You know, it's all about love, man. You know what I mean? That's what it is, no matter what kind of music you appreciate or listen to when we go out together. We've all bought a ticket to this show. We're there for the same reasons. So when you see a place and you're a part of the place getting whipped up into a frenzy, those moments that have happened have been special. I mean, I can see them flash in my mind. I don't know if I can name the venue or the night. We have been lucky. You know, one time in Shanghai, we were joined by the great Hazel Payne, you know, and she joined us. And she actually had been in town, so performed with her a couple of times. But I remember the first time was just like we had an immediate music energy connection together, singing really just easy together, making it funky.
When you were, I kind of remember some rules. You weren't allowed to gig at other places, but you were gigging at other places in China. Right?
Well,
were you allowed
when we were
pursue?
under contract at the Blues and Jazz, we were going and jamming at many places, but we weren't getting paid. Like
You
they had a
couldn't get
place
paid.
that's called Jay-Z, and all the musicians, they had a jam that started at 3 a.m. on Saturday nights. And all the musicians would get done with their gigs, and then everybody would show up at Jay-Z. And there we had some nights that would just went until noon the next day. You know,
Nice.
just absolutely, because you know, over there they don't have to close. They don't have to close. They close when people stop drinking. You know.
Yeah.
So if you keep going all night, it's not a big deal.
Nice.
And and we did many. We had a wonderful drink over there. So it was absinthe, gold tequila, and tomato juice, and we call it a stoplight. You get the green one, the yellow one, and the red one.
Whoa.
Man, that thing would get you charged up. You'd be playing licks you didn't thought you knew.
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner in that one, Greg.
That was a really special time too at the Jay-Z Club. Like there's a new location in Shanghai now, which is still a beautiful venue. But this place that we were at, there was a vibe there that was like, wow. And there was,
You've been there now, so you've been gigging in China. You've been gigging in China now for better portion of a decade, 15 years.
Yeah.
Would you consider yourself at this point? Do you still see yourself as an American citizen or an expat? I mean, it's kind of the same thing. But
it's very difficult
do
to
you
get
feel more comfortable
citizenship
when you're here in the
China.
U.S.?
I feel
What's that?
great. I'm in the U.S. right now, and I feel great. Absolutely. You know. In fact, it's such a short time that I get to be here. I'm trying to squeeze every minute of fun and give every hug and do every gig that I can while I'm here. But I mean, I feel comfortable over in China, but they're not very, it's not like here where you can really, even if I married a Chinese girl, then I guess I would get the marriage citizenship, but you still got to renew that, I think, every 5 years or something. I don't know. But it's very, very difficult to actually get the Chinese version of a green card. I only know a very scant few people that have it. And most people that I know wouldn't even think about trying to get it. The criteria is pretty high.
So how does permission work then? What do? You get a visa to go over there for a certain period of time?
Yep. My employer gets me a visa to be able to work there. So whether it's a hotel or the bar, the club or the school, whatever it is where you're working, they make you a visa and you're working under their umbrella.
So when you go back, when do you go back? We'll start with that.
I'll go back in the end of August.
So end of August, you go back, and what is the routine? So you're playing X number of nights a week, and I think Larry mentioned that you're teaching now as well.
I'm teaching now. Yeah.
Talk about how that came about.
So that came about because of COVID. So I've always, like I said earlier, been a private teacher. I was usually just one-on-one. I taught a little while rock school, sort of like the Jack Black thing, where I had like a band full of 12-year-olds. It was awesome, teaching them how to be in their first band. That was really a good time. But usually it's been one-on-one. So anyways, when COVID hit, they stopped making entertainment visas. So at that time, COVID was just getting really bad in the States. I was like, I don't want to go back to America. So my mother was like, hey, you should just get your TESOL and start teaching.
Yeah.
So I went online, paid a small fee, got my TESOL, and studied up for like 3 days. I was trapped in the house anyways. I had nothing else to do, you know what I mean? So I studied up, got my license, and then I started teaching. And I just happened to fall into, I did like a year of online because everybody was trapped in the house. And I taught at one school, and then I wound up getting a job as a music teacher at an international school. So this job's really been great. The kids are great. My administrators are great. The program is really cool. So I really enjoy helping these kids with music. So I'm playing a little bit less than I used to be, but I still play quite a bit and have some private students.
Yeah, I have to interject just because, I always love when I get a message from you because you're halfway around the world and I'm like, oh, Greg sent me a message about, I don't even know, a couple weeks ago. I go and look at my messages like through Facebook Messenger or whatever, and there's this video of this young Chinese girl.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
assume one of your students,
right.
Who's like really good English, reading the lyrics to Kiss's Rock and Roll All Night.
I gotta teach these kids right. You know what I mean?
Proper corruption being done by Greg Luttrell halfway around the world. I mean, it is classic video. So yeah, man.
She's just cute as a button, and she took right to the song. She had she had the melody going and everything.
It was great. Yeah, and halfway through, she kind of stopped. Greg's like, no, keep going.
Keep going.
I was like, this is priceless.
Such a good kid. Her name's Aria. Good kid. So what that was at the end of the year, we had our summer concert was each one of the classes did a song for rock and roll. So I had them doing I Love Rock and Roll All Night. I had them doing all kinds of we did We Will Rock You, just all rock theme songs.
That's awesome.
So she's a first grader, but she took right to it. She loved that song.
So you've obviously taken your role as a teacher very seriously, in that you can see that you were influenced by teachers that
very much
pushed you to want to be the best that you can be. How is that? How have you been able then to give your students that kind of encouragement, that kind of enthusiasm for playing?
Well, it can be a challenge a little bit, with every teacher. You know what I mean? Just a teacher. So same as everybody else. So it's general music. So, a lot of the classes that I was into, I was in choir because I was into music. So it's easier to reach those kids. Some of the in general music, you got to I just want them to enjoy music. Some of the kids already play. They're really into it. I know who they are. We can get a good connection. Some of the kids would way rather be playing video games. It's general music. You know what I mean? So it's fun and it's challenging to bridge that gap and I'm just trying to latch on to each kid in some way to enjoy music and have fun with it. And, don't not have it be, these kids have a lot of very difficult studies as it is, English is their second language, so they want to learn, their parents want to learn music through English and English through music, right? So I wanted it to be fun as well. They've already got a lot of science and blah, 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 and, stuff that doesn't have to be fun. So I like to have as much fun as we can.
Sure.
And then also show them here's actually what a good tune is. Yeah. Let's get them going. Let's get them going with the Kiss, so I can make Larry proud.
It was better than Love Gun. Come on, you got to be careful with this.
Love Gun.
You got to be careful, Greg.
Got to be careful. Right.
Hey, just real quick before we get to advice and out here, and we thank you so much for your time. How fortunate do you feel to just be playing music for a living and teaching and doing what you love to do every single day of your life?
Just incredibly fortunate, and like Tushar was asking me, just now when I come back to the States, I feel also fortunate to just have so many good friends like you that I can reconnect with. I'm headed on the plane tomorrow to go see one of our other college buddies, Scotty Capolo, going to go to Nashville and look at some guitars and listen to some country music and some great musicians.
Cause some shenanigans, I'm sure.
Probably cause some shenanigans if I know me and Scotty, you know what I mean? Most definitely. But, it makes coming back all that sweeter. And, you can't miss me if I don't go away,
Yeah. So what time are Lions games? What time are?
Yeah, I don't know.
We all miss them. What time are Lions games on over in China?
Oh man, it's tough to watch, and it's in the middle of the night. It's pretty much a 12-hour difference during football season. So
yeah. I was telling Larry and Tushar earlier, the Bills and Lions are both good. The world is topsy-turvy,
down. Isn't it? Let's just stay talking about music because the rest of the world is a disaster.
Giants are bad.
The Giants blow. Oh,
yeah,
my God.
They say the Cowboys don't even have a chance, right?
Thanks. So, talk about, friends in college and stuff, man. Oh. I was in college for the 4 straight Bills Super Bowl losses, and every year Big Tough Ray Clough would just destroy me for losing that.
Bro, I remember being there with you for all those losses and just feeling so bad for you. And just, I know those cats.
This is our year.
I can't even pile on because you were just
Charlie Brown with the football and Lucy. It was awful. Oh man, our time will come, Greg, for both of us.
It was close for us this
happen.
year. You know, it was close. Let's see.
So, Greg, as we start to wrap, we always ask our guests, if somebody wanted to follow in your footsteps, which feels almost impossible because you've taken a very unique route, but if somebody that you bumped into shared that they want to be a professional musician, they want this to be their life, what advice would you give them?
I would say, if the kid was young, I would say play with people that are older than you.
Okay.
As much as you can. And then I would also say, if you want to make money, do something else. No, I'm kidding. There's plenty of musicians doing well. I'm totally joking, and I'm doing just fine. I'm very, very thankful and fortunate. But it did take a long time before I had it.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice.
But I was happy. I was really just happy playing music.
And that's got to be all of it, right? I mean, that's what it's about.
Everybody's got a different angle.
There you
So,
go.
Greg, if people want to discover your music and to get to learn more about you beyond this conversation, where should they go?
I have a GregLuttrell.com, GregLuttrell.com, or you can find me on Greg Luttrell Music on Facebook or Instagram.
Perfect. And, I was there today. I watched a bunch of different videos. I really enjoyed what I saw. So anybody out there listening who wants to learn more about Greg, it is absolutely a great destination. So GregLuttrell.com.
The legend.
Thank you, Larry.
The legend.
Thank you.
Come on.
Thank you, Larry, and Tushar. I appreciate you guys.
Thank you so
Thanks,
much for
man.
joining us, Greg.
Thank you, brother.
It was great. I'm sorry you guys had to be subjected to Larry and I catching up. This is like
It felt like we were intruding at times. I will agree.
If you would have taken several hard lefts, had this been private, though.
I think there'll be
good.
one version that goes out to the world, and there'll be another
Right.
version that goes to the two
That's
of
right.
you.
Only
That's
to
right.
us.
There'll be an outtakes.
As well there should be, Greg. Thanks, man.
So that was Greg Luttrell with an incredible story about having an open mind and just following your dreams no matter where they take you. Larry Shea, thank you so much for making that introduction.
Yeah, I'm so glad that he was able to share that with everybody because it's such a unique story. It's such a unique tale. It is so interesting that, there were people who were pivotal in his life that, got him to play music, the teacher taught him the Rush song and things like that. I thought that was so cool. But, you never know if one thing changes, if it's going to be different. With Greg, there's no doubt. He was going to be an entertainer, a performer through hell or high water. And it's just, it the minute you see him, Again, and I said it in the beginning, find out what you love and figure out a way to get paid for it, right? And I thought what was interesting about Greg's story is there was no pivotal, seminal moment where he, reaches that destination. It was determination. It was hard work. It was getting up on that stage night after night after night and figuring out how to keep a room moving. That's what he does. So I really love that he shared that part of it with us, I also just want to talk about his advice a little bit. It was smart, especially for musicians out there, aspiring musicians. If you're young, play with people who are older than you because you learn through experience, and myself, other musicians that went to UMass Lowell, we were playing every single day and those were your chops. T, you mentioned the 10,000 hours thing, for mastery of something. Like, I don't know if I put in 10,000 hours, but I'm sure Greg did. And that's why he's still playing right now, And again, this is not the first time we've heard this advice. If you want to make money, do something else, right? Because very
Too many
few
people
break
have told
through.
us this.
I know. But you know what? Chase your dreams, people. Don't worry about that part of it. But I also want to touch on this last bit, which is just how adventurous and brave he is, how courageous he is to go to another country and embrace it the way he has. And I would get homesick. Other people I think may not feel as comfortable, but any culture, as long as the people are good and you're safe and you're happy, like that's who Greg is. And it just came through in this interview and I'm super proud of him. And if you get a chance to see this guy perform, you won't regret it.
I'm going to take the flip side to what you said there, Shay. And I was Sam and I have spoken about this off when we were done, is about the lack of advice that Greg gave us a lot of the times, right? Hey, who are your influences? Oh, I didn't really have an influence. Hey, what would you have for this? What would you say to this person? Oh, I don't know if I would say to this person. And that maybe is part of the real story here. And like we've talked about the notion of an unconventional path, right? Is that, yeah, in a lot of senses, you kind of have to carve your own niche out in the world. You kind of have to figure out who you are as a person, right? We talked to a lot of folks who on this podcast who have pretty much figured it out, who figured it out at a young age, etc. This is what I want to do. He had a notion of what he wanted to do, but he didn't have the pathway forward. And so what he did was figure it out along the way. He didn't have a roadmap. It was not a straight line roadmap. This was a lot of lefts and rights along the way to make it to where he is today. And maybe it's not the path for everybody. It's definitely the path for him. But what it does allow for us to do is give us a good deal of insight into, there are other ways to make it, to be happy, to fulfill yourself. If you say to yourself, I want to be X, we say it all the time. There's no wrong choices in this one. Move forward. That's the biggest piece of advice that we can give to anybody. Move forward. And that's what Greg did. He moved forward.
Yeah, very true. And you have to find that day when you don't show up at that temp job you have or whatever, right? One of you made a joke about putting the tie in the drawer and that's it. Not coming out again. I also just don't want to sugarcoat a really important part of Greg and who he is, which is he's a people person. We joked about it. But, part of the reason Greg is so successful is because he forms relationships with people and people want to be around him and want to show him the stage and be entertained, So don't ever underestimate the social aspect of putting your career together, whatever that might be, because people like Greg and it shows because he gets opportunities because of these social networks that he's built around him, and it's super important.
And we said a lot on the podcast too. Is that look, sometimes getting that next job or being able to get the next job, it's just not being a jerk.
Yeah,
right. If people enjoy being around you, they're more likely to want to work with you in the future, and that's really what this is. That's really what it's about.
Absolutely, relationships are everything. I've often said the only thing I have anything in this world is because of my relationships and the friendships that I've been able to forge along the way. My key takeaway goes back to an episode that we did with the voiceover artist and actor, et cetera, Shelley Shinoy, whose theme was just say yes. She just kept saying yes. And in this case, Greg was very similar. If an opportunity came his way, yes. And it took him all the way to China. So there's certainly a theme here. Follow your heart, just say yes, and opportunities will find you if you make yourself available to them. So with that, Greg Luttrell, you have such a fascinating journey. You're such a good guy. Thank you so much for joining this episode of No Wrong Choices. On behalf of Tushar Saxena, Larry Shea, and me, Larry Samuels, thank you again for joining this episode of No Wrong Choices. If after listening you've thought of someone who could be a great guest, please let us know by sending us a note via the contact page of our website at nowrongchoices.com. While there, please be sure to check out our blog and explore other great episodes while signing up to become a member of our community. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Threads, and X. TikTok is up and content has begun rolling out. We'll be back with another episode next week. Before then, always remember, there are no wrong choices on the road to success, only opportunities, because we learn from every experience.